relations between Nigeria and the EU are better than ever before. And we see that on so many different levels. We see it as the biggest trading partners in our political dialogue, in provision of development cooperation, in humanitarian aid, cultural cooperation, and even in the provision of scholarships for young Nigerians. So Africa is in general a big priority for the European leadership, and Nigeria as the biggest country here is on top of that priority list. So we like to say what is good for Nigeria is good for the European Union as well.
The European Union is a political and economic union of sovereign states that are located primarily in Europe. The EU was founded in 1957 with the Treaty of Rome. It currently has 28 member states. The EU member states have worked together to achieve an even closer union in economic, monetary and social affairs, and increasingly in political matters such as responding to terrorist threats and the surge in irregular migrants entering the EU. The EU and Nigeria are natural partners that share values and aspirations. They work together to promote opportunities for all Nigerians.
Overall, the priorities of our cooperation program are determined once every five years, let's say, and that is in close agreement with the government of the federal government of Nigeria, in particular the Ministry of Budget and National Planning, which is our direct counterpart. So every 5 years we, in common agreement, decide which are our priority sectors for the coming years. For instance, at this moment, under the current cycle, our main areas of work are, in the first place, economic cooperation and access to electricity. In the second place, governance, security and migration. And the third one, which is the biggest in volume, is what we call health, resilience and nutrition, of which most of the resources currently go to the northeast.
This is done in several ways. Nigeria and the EU have strong bilateral relations, and the political partnership has deepened even further in recent years.
So I work in a section which deals with a lot of topics. So it's called Democracy, Governance and Migration, but in reality we work also on human rights and gender. We also work on civil society, to support civil society and their contribution to the advancement of Nigeria. And then we also work on peace and security.
In Nigeria, the EU continues to play a crucial part in fostering democracy, providing the Independent National Electoral Commission with much-needed support to build credibility in electoral processes.
We are also supporting the National Assembly currently and the political parties. And one area we want to specifically focusing in our current program is to actually help women, people with disabilities and young people to be able to participate in the political life of the country.
The European Union has robust trade relations with Nigeria and remains its largest trading partner for oil and non-oil exports.
The problem with oil is that it's a finite resource, and more significantly for the Nigerian population, it doesn't require a lot of workers. So when we talk about increased trade, we're talking here about an outlet for products that the Nigerian industries could produce. This is not really the case today. What we in the EU are trying to encourage is attracting investment into the country to widen the manufacturing base, build new industries here to create employment. With employment, you create wealth, you create jobs, you improve the standards of living. What we are beginning to see now is, with the help of European investment, startups in Nigeria. So in the dairy industry, for example, European expertise, European finance is being used to set up dairy industries here. Take, for example, the fashion industry. The Nigerians are full of fashion and style, And what is interesting here is how to channel that into products that can be marketed on the international stage.
Nigeria is also a key beneficiary of EU foreign direct investments. The Economic Partnership Agreement, which is a trade and development agreement, is aimed at increasing and diversifying exports of the West African region towards the EU while protecting the local industry.
This is a part of some food security projects that we have in a number of states like Kebbi, Adamawa, Taraba, where we try to increase, on the one hand, the food security for rural populations, but on the other hand also to provide direct support to smallholder farmers to increase their productivity. And part of that project indeed is to, for instance, to store the produce that they have from their lands, and food banks is one of the means through which we can do that. Other means of supporting the farmers and also the women that are active in agriculture are, for instance, to setting up loan associations so that they can save money and invest in new methodologies for producing agricultural products.
The Africa-Europe Alliance for Sustainable Investment and Jobs was proposed to boost investment in Africa as part of the EU External Investment Plan. The strategy targets to mobilize some 44 billion euros of primarily private investment in transport, agriculture, digital sectors, small companies and renewable energy.
Well, basically it's about supporting the economy of Nigeria to create more jobs. And one of the preconditions for supporting the economy and the Nigerian people is to make sure they have sufficient energy to run their companies, for their homes. And there's a big lack of energy in Nigeria. So these are one of our focal areas of the EU delegation.
Fannin sana'a na ni dai matsayina na sarkin fawa, ina amfani da wannan wuta na fannin sa nama komai zafi, zan sa nama a cikin fridge kuma nama zai ɗauki tsawon sati ɗaya babu abin da nama yake yi. Amma kafin zuwan wannan wuta nama kwana ɗaya biyu nama ya lalace sakamakon rashin amfani da wannan sola, ba ma amfani da wannan wuta kuma ba wani abu da muke sawa wanda yake sanyaya mana nama ya rike nama ya samu sanyi ba zai lalace tsawon sati guda ba.
We have a huge portfolio of projects in the area of energy. We support Nigeria with over 150 million euros. So we have support mainly in the area of renewable energies, but also a little bit of support in transmission lines.
EU-Nigeria development cooperation is based on mutual respect and agreement on the priority sectors for EU assistance.
We are supporting the European External Investment Plan, which provides billions of euros of guarantees to support projects which are higher risk, so they can actually mature. So we are now trying to attract the international financial institutions to come to Nigeria and use these guarantees. 3 of them have been signed so far, and we're very much looking forward to see projects on the ground supported by the EU guarantees.
The EU provides funding from a number of aid instruments like the EU Trust Fund for Africa, humanitarian aid, support for civil society and assistance to fight terrorism, as well as contributes 1.075 billion euro to the West African region through the Economic Community of West African States Commission. Our priorities are health, nutrition and resilience, governance sector and economic cooperation. The European Civil Protection and Humanitarian Aid Operations supports international relief organizations operating in Nigeria. The EU is focused on providing the basic needs of displaced persons in the northeastern part of Nigeria.
This intervention which is a collaboration between the European Union, its member states, and financial institutions such as the European Investment Bank and the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, will go a long way in ensuring the impact of this pandemic is controlled and contained. Indeed, this brotherly support will save millions of lives. Nigeria, Africa, and many beneficiary countries across the world will remain grateful for generations to come.
We are very pleased today to announce that the European Union will provide 50 million euros in addition to the 1.2 million euros already provided, equivalent to some 21 billion naira, channeled through the UN COVID-19 Basket Fund. And this is, as the Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs already mentioned, by far the largest single grant contribution that we are aware of to the response in Nigeria. And it is certainly the largest support that the EU is providing anywhere outside of Europe currently.
We sincerely appreciate the European Union for extending this hand of fellowship to this great society.
We appreciate you a lot for coming to our aid. This will go a long way.
So, and my section is the one dealing with health, water, resilience, or what we call social development indicators. And we have programs, normally we have 5 years, 6 years programming. So we have some programs on the water sector, especially in the Niger Delta, and we are working with the state. The state puts an amount of money, we put another amount, is 30 from the states of the Niger Delta, 70 from us. And we are supporting what we have calculated is more than 10 million people. In terms of maternal mortality, it's another issue, and we have programs working with mothers in the Northeast to address their nutrition status, because we know that if the mother is malnourished, the baby is malnourished. So we work with mothers, we try to bring them to the primary health centers, they are trained.
The EU is supporting ECOWAS to become a fully integrated regional economic organization like itself. Several instruments have been applied based on various frameworks for peace and security and conflict resolution. These include the ECPF and EPSAL. Training has been provided for security forces and other stakeholders on counterterrorism, conflict resolution, and peace building.
So our regional cooperation is under the whole umbrella of the EU's support and partnership with West Africa. Over the past budgetary period, we're looking at spending over $1 billion in West Africa to support them and do that in a model of partnership. We do that with ECOWAS and UMOA.
Regional challenges require regional solutions, and that is why for many years we have partnered with ECOWAS. In many ways, the European Union and ECOWAS as regional organizations are natural partners.
Indeed, we are working on the peace and security. We're working on regional economic integration. We're working in supporting their capacity more generally.
In our concept notes that we've developed, we are also trying to use this as a way of degenerating conflicts. We don't want them to start. They just need to identify themselves as one people. Because, for instance, if you are able to travel from here to any other West African country, Mali, Niger, they should see you as one of them. But at this point, what brings a lot of people together is being able to speak a common language. So we're also trying to use that, and also have partners supporting us. We have IOM, International Organization for Migration. We have what we call an FMM project, which is also EU ECOWAS funded. And these are some of the things, the partners we are using to be able to, address and implement some of our programs towards, the peace and security dimension.
We set out 3 pillars and also one non-focal sector or non-focal institutional support area of priority. So the first pillar is on peace and security and stability. And the second is then on regional economic integration, and that spans both trade facilitation, but also transport governance, energy governance, a wide range there to make sure that West Africa becomes a better integrated bloc. And then the third is linked to resilience, health, agriculture as well.
The close relationship between the EU and Nigeria is one that is expected to grow closer and stronger over the years. This is because it is based on one simple principle. What is good for Nigeria is good for Europe.